Hi, it's Robin. I've got here a new vinyl album by LukHash called Are Stardust. So if you don't know who LukHash is, you might remember some viral YouTube or Facebook videos from 7, 8, 9 years ago of masked guys doing remixes of C64 songs like Supremacy Overlord, Spy vs. Spy, Last V8, and others. Kinda creepy. I thought it was some pretty good music. Well, that is or was LukHash. And since then, he's gone on to do his own album releases, and this is the latest. Might be classified as synthwave or retrowave. Kind of think 1980s sci-fi movie soundtracks meets arcade game music like Outrun, and you get the idea. So the album came out earlier in 2021, but the vinyl took a while to get released. There's the beautiful art in the gatefold by Pedro Lorenzo. LukHash also released an album of pure SID music earlier this year called Cyberchip. That was recorded on real Commodore 64s, and that one has album artwork by legendary computer game designer and former member of Sensible Software, Stu Cambridge. I checked that out, and it's quite good. So I think the music's good, but the reason I'm really interested in this album is because of this bonus here. Commodore 64 game, Are Stardust by Megastyle. And that C64 game is actually on the vinyl record. So today we're going to try and load that up and see if we can get it running. So to do that, I've got my terrible Ion turntable. I'm using this because I've actually had really good luck using cheap equipment, whether it's cheap turntables or cheap cassette decks, when dealing with data that I'm trying to load into a computer. I'm not entirely sure why. This turntable also has direct line out rather than phono level, so I can run from the stereo RCA jacks at the back of the turntable to this 3.5mm male plug, can plug into the input on this MP3 to C64 adapter. This plugs into the Commodore 64 cassette port and has the electronics to convert from the audio signal to the digital signal, just highs and lows, that the Commodore 64 expects. So I'll plug that into the back of my Commodore 64. And I'm using my Swedish PAL C64. Because this album is from the UK, I believe the C64 game runs optimally on PAL. So that's what we'll use today. Okay, so take the record out. Okay, so I believe the C64 game is the 6th and final track on side B. I don't know how well this will pick up, but it's track 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. And I believe the data is just in this last little track for the runout groove. Right, so otherwise my C64 has nothing else plugged into it except for the cassette adapter. Well, it's Robin of the future, and unfortunately, my video capture device failed to record the output of my C64, so I've lost my actual reaction to seeing this game load for the first time. So, I'm going to do it again. On the plus side, I'm a lot better at the game now, so you'll probably see a better playthrough of it than before. Alright, so let's try this again. Just going to lower the needle down onto that last track. And I can adjust the volume here.
Upcoming audio is primarily data for robots and computers only. Please do not listen. Stop your device now.
Okay, so I'm pressing load here. I'm going to hold down the Commodore key. That's the carrier tone, I guess you could call it. Okay, now I think the program's loading. Yeah, there we go. We Are Stardust. So this seems to have an integrated fast loader. Freeload by Paul Hughes. And I've turned down the volume monitor completely. And yet that sound, I think, is the actual physical needle on the vinyl. This is pretty incredible, though. This is fast loading off of the vinyl record. There's some great title screen art, or loading screen art. Now, presumably it's loading the actual game now. All right, that's done. Yes, Megastyle. Megastyle proudly presents We Are Stardust. There's some instructions. So this is like a running game. Code by Jamie Fuller. And you see the rest of the credits there. Okay, so let's give this a try. Got my joystick plugged into port 2. And the idea is you push up to jump over those obstacles. Those are pickups. That's the LukHash symbol. And when it's these kind of tall walls, you actually push to the right and smash through them. And duck under those. There we go. Oops. I was going to have a better game here. And the music's actually a rendition of a song from the album. If you don't mess up, you get kind of like a bonus, or like a streak bonus. So currently this game is only available on the physical releases of the game, the vinyl and the CD, and the vinyl is now sold out, but they did do a repressing of the CD, and I'll have links in the video description to check out anything I've talked about today. So I'm curious, that We Are Stardust line actually came from a Joni Mitchell song called Woodstock from back around 1970. And actually I'm familiar with the version from Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. It has the lines, "We are stardust, we are golden, we are billion-year-old carbon, and we got to get ourselves back to the garden." Pretty famous line. If anybody's trying to transfer this and don't have an adapter like this, I'll put links to some of my other videos about getting data off of records into the 64. The other main option is to transfer this onto tape and then put it in your data set. It's a good streak though. All right, 1036. It's pretty cool that it has the QR code at the end. Go to LukHash.com/game. Maybe you can upload that? I went to that URL, and yes, there's a Hall of Fame you can submit your score to through a web form. Looks like my score was good enough for 9th place. So I talked to Jamie Fuller of Megastyle, the programmer, and yeah, one of the challenges of making this game was keeping the size small so that it would fit on the vinyl record. Obviously, the main purpose of this record is for the music. They use the fast loader and tight coding to keep the file size as small as possible. The more data there is, the more room it would require on the vinyl. Space is time, and time is bytes. But Jamie said more than the size constraints, the scrolling is what was tricky. Having that detailed city in the background with this changing landscape up and down, and the scrolling objects in front of it is actually very complicated for the C64, which doesn't really support that kind of parallax scrolling natively. So it meant that entire cityscape had to be made with only 16 characters. And the artist Retrowave took care of that. So if you're a programmer, just think about the challenge of actually generating this display. So Jamie, you did good. And the vinyl has one other trick. It glows in the dark. Okay, and I am curious if this runs on an NTSC machine. Of course, the music sounds terrible through these built-in little speakers. Here we go.
Warning. Upcoming audio is binary. Stop your device now.
Okay, I think I found it. We are Stardust. Here goes the freeload. So far, so good. So that robot warning about like this incoming data transmission, that reminds me of my CD from my band way back in 1999. We put a much less elaborate C64 program on the end of our CD. Well, that's working. But did a similar robot voice warning of this incoming data transmission. I'll play a clip of that if I can find it. One last burst. All right. Nice. Well, it loads on NTSC. We'll see how the gameplay is. Oh yeah, that's pretty flickery. Okay, so it certainly doesn't work perfectly here. Whoops. Well, gameplay seems good. So if any of you are thinking about getting this for your NTSC C64, seems to be perfectly playable. So congratulations to Jamie and the whole Megastyle team on this really great game getting put on vinyl. That certainly isn't an everyday occurrence. And of course, LukHash for the album release. Thanks to my patrons for their support. Thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.
This is a warning. Loud data transmission to commence in 30 seconds.